Wookiees have been around since the beginning of Star Wars, and the lovable nature of Chewbacca really established them as a beloved part of the universe. But since A New Hope, a lot has been added to the species. Hello and welcome back to Vault Holocron. I'm Jonathan, and today we will be discussing the Wookiees. Wookiees were a humanoid species covered in thick, shaggy hair, which had water-shedding properties, which could be brown, black, grey and white, eyes which ranged in colour from blue to brown, extendable claws which were useful for climbing, vocal cords which meant that they were unable to speak other languages than their native Shiri-Wook, Thai-Karan and Zaxic, average height of 2.23 to 2.54 metres tall, or 7.32 to 8.33 feet tall, and the males weighed around 150 kilograms, or 23.6 stone on average, while the females weighed around 100 kilograms, or 15.7 stone on average. Wookiees were also omnivores, meaning that they ate both plants and meat. On the topic of food, Wookiees ate a lot, with the adults requiring a whopping 3,500 to 6,000 calories per day. To put that into perspective, human women are recommended around 2,000 calories per day, and human men are recommended around 2,500 calories per day. Wookiees also had an average lifespan of 400 years, but many Wookiees fell short of this due to the huge effect of slave labour in the spice mines of Kessel. Wookiees could also be force sensitive. As well as this, there was a subspecies of Wookiee called the Silverbacks, but they haven't been explored much. Anyway, now that I've established what the Wookiees were, I'm going to look into Wookiee culture. Wookiees firmly and deeply believed in loyalty and courage, and they also valued honour and friendship highly. These traits could be seen greatly in Chewbacca through his friendship with Han Solo and work for the rebels. Between Wookiees, some of the loyalty, friendship and honour was shown through grooming, which was seen as the highest compliment. However, despite their focus on friendship, Wookiees definitely had an aggressive side, being known to go into a berserker rage. This could be seen especially in their conflict with the Trandoshans, a species who lived in the same system as them, who they deeply hated. Trandoshans were even known to hunt Wookiees for sport, like in the case of the Trandoshan hunters hunting a younger Chewbacca in the Clone Wars. Black Chrysanthemum in the Book of Boba Fett is also a great example of the Wookiee hatred for Trandoshans. On the same topic of Wookiee anger and fighting, the Wookiees had a Wookiee army led by captains, generals and sergeants. One subunit of the Wookiee army was the Kachiro Wookiee militia, which was based in the city Kachiro and was led by General Tarful. Despite Wookiees being prone to aggression, they still believed in honour in combat, which can be seen in the Wookiee Honour Code, which was a rule forbidding Wookiees from using their extendable claws for anything other than climbing. Interestingly, Chewbacca actually broke this rule on Starkiller Base when Han Solo died, killing a First Order stormtrooper with his claws, although he justified his actions by claiming there was no honour among the First Order. Wookiees may not have used their claws in combat, but they did use bowcasters, laser crossbows mostly handcrafted by Wookiees for combat. Bowcasters were actually based on ancient Wookiee weapons which fired poison darts and arrows, which probably explains the crossbow look. Bowcasters are also a great example of Wookiee craftsmanship, which involved blending off-world technology with traditional materials, such as wood, precious stones and metals. The Wookiee Jedi youngling Gungi showed this style quite well in his lightsaber, which had a unique wooden hilt. However, despite Wookiees being good at crafting, they didn't view it as a talent, but as a survival skill. This can be seen through the Shiri-Wook language having 150 words for wood, but no word for artist. Also, in Wookiee culture, when males turned 12 years old, they underwent initiation rituals to enter adulthood. As well as this, Wookiees also believed that seeing a cancel brought good luck, which meant that many Wookiees kept them as pets. Also, Wookiees spoke 3 languages: Shiriwook, Karan, and Zakzik. Anyway, now I'm going to move on to the history of the Wookiees, from what we know so far in canon. In the time of the Clone Wars, the Wookiees were loyal to the Republic, fighting alongside them in many systems. Towards the end of the Clone Wars though, the fight was brought to the Wookiee homeworld of Kashyyyk, in the Battle of Kashyyyk, or in Ki-Adi-Mundi's words,
the joint attack on the Wookiees.
This battle involved the Wookiees working together with the Republic, and being able to successfully push back the Separatists. However, as the battle was happening, Order 66 was given, which gave the Separatists an advantage. The Wookiees still managed to beat them though, but the worst was still to come. When the Empire rose to power, Kashyyyk was soon blockaded, and Wookiees were now by law considered non-sentient, which allowed the Empire to enslave the Wookiees and abuse their strength to carry out difficult tasks over long periods of time. Many Wookiees were forced to work on the construction of the first Death Star. Many were forced to work in the spice mines of Kessel until they died. Many were forced to work on construction sites. Some were used in medical experimentation, and a few were even hunted for sport by Governor of Kashyyyk, Grand Moff Lozen Tolruk. To make sure the Wookiees wouldn't rebel, the Empire put many measures in place. For example, Wookiee slaves were fitted with inhibitor chips, which would cause them great pain if activated. The Empire would also threaten the family and clan members of the Wookiees, as generally the Wookiees wouldn't want their actions harming anyone other than themselves. However, not all Wookiees were enslaved. Some Wookiees actually went to Lasan to help the Lasat species, who were being attacked by the Empire for questioning their new regime. Later, more Wookiees were freed from Empire enslavement by Cal Kestis, who had come to Kashyyyk in search of Tarful, and ended up helping the partisans to attack an Imperial refinery on the planet. A while later there was a revolt on Kashyyyk, against Imperial control, but the Empire, using the 212th Attack Battalion, put an end to this, leading to harsher restrictions on the planet. Not long after, some Wookiees were enslaved by the Empire, but the Spectres managed to free the prisoners from Kessel. In the Galactic Civil War, many Wookiees joined the rebellion to aid in the fighting. Going back to the enslaved Wookiees on Kashyyyk, after the Battle of Endor, with the second Death Star and the Emperor being destroyed, Kashyyyk still faced more hardship, with the planet being continued to be occupied by the remnants of the Empire. In this time, there was less demand for Wookiee slaves, but this didn't stop the remnants of the Empire, with Tolruk and Commandant Theodane Sardo considering farming the Wookiees for meat. Luckily, the New Republic came to the rescue, with Han Solo, Chewbacca, and ex-loyalty officer Sinja Rav Velas heading to the planet and activating a hyperspace transceiver, which neutralized the inhibitor chips in the Wookiees. This allowed for an uprising, which involved Tolruk's personal Wookiee slave, Crackhtooth, killing him. However, Tolruk had ordered the Star Destroyers around Kashyyyk to bombard the planet, and Han, Chewie and Sinja were captured by Vice Admiral Dom Korgal, meaning that the New Republic's problems weren't quite solved yet. Fortunately, Princess Leia, Phantom Squadron, and Admiral Akbar came to the rescue, allowing for Han, Chewie and Sinja to get free and use the Imperial Star Destroyer they were on to destroy another Star Destroyer, and force the final Star Destroyer to surrender, liberating the Wookiees. Later, the New Republic and the Wookiees worked together to mop up the last of the Imperial forces on Kashyyyk, which involved freeing Chewbacca's son, Lumpa Waru. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this dive into the Wookiees, and we hope to see you later at Vault Holocron.